Hey, what's up, sports nutrition? This is Mr. Honey coming at you for day 7 of distance learning, and today is Trojan Day. So for our Spirit Day Challenge Day, be sure to upload you rocking your Trojan gear. So continuing along with what we've got for today, we've got some notes on kitchen safety basics and preventing kitchen accidents. And then continuing along, you guys will have very short, simple, easy to do assignment for today. So let's get started. So it's very important that we go over kitchen safety because when we go into the lab, we want to be in as safe as environment as possible, both with what the items we're using and both in the actions that we have. So you guys are going to go ahead, get those notes out, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So with basic kitchen safety, you want to make sure that even if you're like super experienced or just brand new to the lab, you want to follow all of these guidelines. So the first couple of major things that you want to do is, first off, focus on what you're doing. Nobody needs to be distracted while they're in the kitchen. So make sure that you're focusing on what you're doing in the task at hand. And always dress for safety. So whenever we go in here, make sure that your hair, if you got long hair like this, make sure that it's tied back, and so that way, because we don't want loose hair hanging out everywhere. And then also make sure that you're wearing the right proper shoes, and that you're wearing an apron, and that basically what you're wearing is going to reduce the risk of an accident happening. And then also practice safe use of all tools and equipment. So don't just use any tool because it's available. Just as we've talked with our kitchen equipment, every tool that you use has a purpose and you need to use it correctly, okay? So, you need to use it as intended, all right? A couple of other guidelines we have, make sure that you close drawers and doors completely. So if you have drawers and doors wide open, you run the risk of someone bumping into them. And it's one thing to bump into them, but it's also very unfortunate and very dangerous if someone bumps into them and they're holding a hot pot of water, or they're holding a hot pan, or maybe they're they're wielding a knife and they're cutting, and then they're walking over to throw it in the sink. So make sure that you have all the drawers and doors closed. Also store large pots and other heavy items on low shelves that are easy to reach. So if you have a really heavy pot or a really heavy item up there and you're trying to hold it up, it is a lot harder to hold something up that is, weighing you down versus, if you can reach down below and then pick it up like so. And then finally, control clutter by putting items back where they belong. We are going to be using Miss Estes' lab when we do this. And Miss Estes has been very gracious to allow us to use her lab when we return and have that time. So you want to make sure that we treat her lab with just as much respect as you would treat, for example, your home kitchen. Now, the big thing is whether or not cell phones should be allowed in the kitchen. Here's what I'm going to say for the basic rule. So the big rule is if you are cooking, that cell phone should not be out. You should not be swiping through, looking at text and things of that nature. My best advice for you is, if you are going to have your cell phone out to look at a recipe or things like that, do your best to get it printed off prior, because cell phones actually contain a lot of germs and a lot of bacteria, and when you bring that into the kitchen, you're bringing those germs and bacteria in with it. Because if you think about it, you've got your cell phone up here, your cell phone's been in your hands, and then on top of that, God knows what else you've touched. That cell phone's in the bathroom. That cell phone's coming in and out of different buildings. So the thing about it is to reduce our level of contamination, just make sure that if you're in the kitchen, you are using that cell phone as little as possible. So some other accidents that happen in the kitchen are falling, and rightfully so, because a lot of times in the kitchen, people are moving around back and forth, left, right, side to side. Cha-cha now, y'all. But also you're looking at different types of flooring and stuff that people can slip. So it's very important to prevent falls in the kitchen. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you are wearing the proper footwear. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Mr. Honey. This section did not get recorded, but I just want to reiterate, when I talk about proper footwear, that means no open-toed shoes. So you want to make sure that you're wearing closed-toed shoes, tennis shoes, something that closes your feet, because if a knife falls, if hot water spills, it could burn you or you could get cut. So make sure that when we have lab days, closed-toed shoes. If you do not wear closed-toed shoes, you will not be able to participate in the lab and get that credit. Next, you also want to make sure that you clear the floor of clutter and then wipe up any spills, because if we spill something, we want to make sure that we wipe it up so nobody runs the risk of slipping. And then also clear the floor of any clutter, book bags, or things like that so nobody trips. And then also make sure that when using cooking spray, hold the pan over the sink to prevent oil spots on the floor. So there are going to be times where we're going to actually have to take cooking spray and spray a pan and You don't want to just hold that pan everywhere and just spray it down. What you want to do is actually hold it over the sink and then spray it, so that way none of that slippery cooking oil will end up on the floor and run the risk of causing a fall. Continuing along with falls, to reach higher shelves, ask other classmates who are taller. This is going to be a thing where y'all are going to be in groups a lot, and because we do have a larger class, make sure that you guys are relying on each other to reach things if you have a classmate who cannot reach them. And then finally, a chair or box can be unbalanced, and sitting or standing on the countertops is not allowed. Furthermore, do not stand or sit on the countertops, because we are looking to practice as good of hygiene as possible. And we do not need anyone's rear end on the counter, and then on top of that, we also don't need your shoes on the counter as well. That's just basically asking for bacteria to get all over the place. So make sure that you are not sitting or standing on the countertops when we are in the lab. Next, we're moving into handling sharp objects, and yes, there are going to be times when we will be handling objects that have the potential to cut you. So first thing you want to do is make sure that when you're using a knife, use a sharp knife, because a dull knife actually takes more force to cut, and the more you have to force it, the more it can actually cause a slip and cause possible injury. So make sure that if the knife is not sharp enough, let me know, so that way I can let Miss Estes know about the knife, and then hopefully we can run it through a sharpening tool and then get it up to par with cutting where it needs to be. Next, also make sure that when we go into dishwashing, wash sharp objects separately, and do not place sharp objects in a sink full of dishes where it cannot be seen. All right. Just as you want to make sure that you are washing the objects separately, because even in the instance when we're done and everything's turned off and we're going through the process of washing dishes, if you reach into a kitchen sink, there is a possibility that you could grab a hold of a knife if you cannot see it. So it's best to wash sharp objects separately and then wash the rest afterwards. Next, if a knife or sharp object falls, step back and let it fall. Do not try to catch it. I know it's natural human instinct to be like, the ground is lava, quick, catch it. If a knife falls, please do not reach for it. That right there is just asking for someone to get cut, okay? So do not let that happen, all right? So if it falls, just let it fall. We'll wash it. We'll get you another one. It'll be fine. And then another one, if glassware falls and breaks, use a broom to sweep up the pieces and use a wet dish rag to pick up bigger ones by hand. And then also we will have a protocol in place with Miss Estes in order to make sure that if there is a fall and glass breaks in the lab, that we will get that cleaned up and make sure that everyone is safe to continue walking around that area. Next, we're going into fire. All right, so first thing to know about fires in the kitchen is that the range is the most likely place for a fire to start. Not in the microwave, not in the oven. The range on top of the stove, that is where fires are most likely to start. So you want to make sure that the range is clear when you first turn it on. Make sure there's nothing on top of it, no grit, no grime, no dirt. And then also make sure that you're not placing any paper towels or dishcloths on the range, because if you do that, they can get hot and then they can actually start flaming up and burning and things like that. So you want to make sure that everything is cleared off of the range and that it is clean before you start cooking. So continuing along with range safety, on the range, pots and pans can actually get hotter than the food inside of them. So you may be cooking some ramen noodles and the ramen noodles may not look like they're super hot. They may just be a little bit warm, maybe a little bit hot to the touch, but the pot or pan that you're cooking that stuff in is going to be a lot hotter. So be sure to be mindful of that. Another thing is that when placing a pan on the range, you want to make sure to turn that handle away from you. if you turn the handle away from you or to the side, you're less likely to hit it and either knock stuff in the floor or spill something on yourself or, heaven forbid, burn yourself. And then also make sure that when removing a hot lid that you lift the lid away from you, because hot condensation on the lid, sauce, whatever that has bubbled up can actually run down the lid, can pop off in your face, do whatever. So make sure that you're lifting that lid away from you so that way you don't run the risk of getting burned. So now that we've gone through range safety, let's talk about the oven. So first things, always make sure to look inside the oven before turning it on, just to make sure there ain't nothing in there, because you never know. Someone may have left something in there, or, you know, maybe someone was cleaning something out and they left their dish rag in there. So make sure to always look inside the oven before turning it on. And then also, you can go ahead and arrange the oven racks as needed before you turn on the oven, so that way when you go and put something inside of the oven, it'll be a lot smoother and seamless process. And then when removing food from the oven, you want to pull the oven rack out and then lift the food up rather than reaching into the oven. So what you do is you pull the rack out, the food is right in front of you, and you lift it up. So you don't try to reach into the oven, because what happens then is, you know, you might not be able to get your arm in there the right way and trying to lift it up. And it's going to be easier to lift directly up than trying to lift up and pull out and turn around and all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you're exercising proper oven safety. Pull the rack out, lift it up. Now, if in the event a fire starts, and knock on wood, I hope it doesn't, these are going to be some of the things that you need to do. First off, if you see smoke or flames on the range and it starts smelling and like it's burning, first off, turn off the heat. So turn off the range, turn off the oven, turn off the heat. If in the event there are flames, you can utilize baking soda to put them out. Soda. Baking soda. I want to stress that. Preferably, let me know, bring it to my attention so I can use the baking soda to put it out, because I don't want y'all to be trying to be firefighters or anything like that. So utilize baking soda to put out the flames. So do not use flour and do not use baking powder. This is one where people get confused about soda and powder. Baking soda will put out the flames. Flour or baking powder can actually pop and explode, and that can cause an even bigger mess. So just make sure that in the event that there are flames, utilize baking soda. And never, ever use water, because water can actually go shh, then cause the flames to spread. So you don't want to use water in this instance. So remember, baking soda, do not use powder, do not use flour, and do not use water. All right? And then as always, make sure that you're alerting me. You know, I'll be going around to every station to check on everything. Remember, turn off heat if you see flames. Baking soda, no powder, no flour, no water. Now, as you guys will see, your assignment for today is creating a PSA, public service announcement, about any sort of these kitchen accidents that you have seen. You're going to pick a kitchen safety precaution and you're going to create a public service announcement about it. So you're going to use like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and you're going to draw this out. Make it like a nice public safety announcement. So what needs to be included? Well, first off, you want to have a bold message about what to do. So this is all about promoting kitchen safety. So this could be something as, if there's a fire, use baking soda. Make sure to pull the oven rack when doing baking and things like that. So it's a big, bold message. Be creative with it. Come up with a little rhyme. Make it nice, big, and bold, and catchy, and eye-catching, and things like that. And then next, write about what could happen if you do not take this safety precaution. All right, so this could be one where, you might want to look into the news and see maybe if there's an accident that happened, or maybe you know someone personally that's affected by this, or maybe I've given you an example, or, you just kind of know. It's kind of common sense. Hey, if you don't cut off if you're not being focused in the kitchen, you could cause this accident. So, the things about it. Talk about the accidents that could happen if you don't follow these precautions. And finally, you can put a picture depicting the proper kitchen safety precaution or a picture that depicts what happens if you do not follow those safety precautions. So big, bold. I'm not going to go into crazy detail about providing color. As long as it's big and bold, you can make it black and white, because, old PSAs, political cartoons, all that stuff, that's black and white back in the day. So as long as you hit those elements and, it's easy to read and it's easy to understand, you're golden. All right. Just make sure that when you finish, take a picture of it and then send it back to me. And then also make sure that you guys are submitting your notes as well as your Spirit Day photos for Trojan Day. But that's all I've got for today. And y'all have a great weekend, and we will continue on Monday.